Bobby Bluford is the founder and creator of Ultimate Muscle Confusion and UMC Bootcamp. Bobby has been studying and applying the art of health, fitness, and self-improvement for more than a quarter of a century. A former college football player at UC Davis, Bobby earned his Bachelor's of Science in Managerial Economics and an MBA from Santa Clara University. Please welcome Bobby Bluford.
My biggest fan right there. This here, it's too loud. This here is a silver dollar. My father, who has changed dramatically since I was young, gives my children, his grandchildren, big bags of coins all the time. So he gave them a bag full of silver dollars. They think they're rich. They think they're rich. If I flip this, I won't, because I'll probably drop it and be embarrassed. But if I did flip it, there are one of two outcomes: heads and tails. If I flip it twice, there are one of four outcomes: heads, 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 tails, 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 heads. If I continue that, and I do it 3 times, 8 possible outcomes. 4 times 16, 5 times 32. If I extrapolate that, you basically take the number of possible outcomes on each flip, and you raise that to the power of the number of times you do that occurrence or that flip. That's called the fundamental counting principle. I majored in computer science for about a quarter. For about a quarter. The class that got me was calculus. I could not figure out, actually, pre-calculus. I didn't pass the grade or pass the class to actually take calculus. So that was the hang-up. It turns out calculus is the first class in the computer science major. So scratch that. So obviously I did not remember that was the fundamental counting principle. Someone told me that. But it's what it's called, right? So now the point of that is this. If I continue doing that flip, it would take 33 flips to get to about 8 billion. 33 flips to get to 8 billion possible outcomes. What that means for us here, is it too loud when I get into it? Is it too loud, Chris? What that means for us here is that even if we all could change in one of 2 ways every single day, which is not true. But if it were true, if all of us, based on what we do, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we emote, could only change in one of 2 ways. And if we only did that for 33 days, once a day, which is also not true, because every moment of every day, something we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, changes who we are. But if you only change once every day in one of 2 ways, it would take just 33 days for the whole planet to be unique. The whole planet to be different. All 8 billion of us. So it's not hyperbole when I tell you guys that you are literally one of one. That you're literally one of one. That only you can do things in this world that no one else can do. Now, I know that now. I know that I'm one of one now. I wish I had known that when I was this big, when I was young. Because when you know you're one of one, you walk differently. When you know who you are is special and different and unique, you talk differently. You walk through life with a certain bounce that you don't do if you don't know that. When you know you're one of one, you can give a talk like this. And when you don't know that, you can't. And I found that out when I was this. I had to give a talk just like this from my school. I was about 12 years old. And I had to do what's called a current event. Simple 2, 3, 4-minute presentation to my class for social studies. Had to go to this thing called the newspaper. Had to cut it out, put it on some nice parchment paper, and then present it to my class. So all week I got ready for it. All week I prepared for it. I rehearsed it. I practiced it. On my way to school, I walked to school, by the way. On my way home from school, in my bedroom, in the bathroom. For a whole week getting ready for a 2-minute talk. Now this one's gonna be longer than 2 minutes, trust me. But that was all it was. But I treated it with such reverence and respect that I wanted it to be great. So my turn came. I'm in the back of the room. And she calls me up. I didn't go first. I didn't go last. So it was my turn to go. She says, come on down, Robert. Back then, she called me Robert. Even though she said, what name do you prefer? I was too shy to say I prefer Bobby. Now I'm Coach Bobby. She says, Robert, come down. And I was in the back of the class and had to walk past my whole class. Right? Now, you know when you're that young and you're in the back of the class and they call you to come forward, what's the whole class do when you're coming down? They look back at you. So you're walking down past 12, 13-year-old kids who are cruel, right? You just don't want to trip. So I'm walking past them, and I get up here now, that is a long walk for a kid with a jerry curl and skinny and buck teeth. That's a long walk. That's a long walk, Jeff, right? Now, I don't mind walking down that aisle now if I have to. I'll walk down any aisle if I have to. I don't mind walking down the aisle now. Look all you want. Look all you want. But back then, I minded. So I get up here, I'm ready to go. I get up here, I sit there, I look at my teacher. She nods to me, you may go. I look at her again. 30 seconds pass by, she nods to me again. You may still go, Robert. I'm standing there. A minute goes by, a minute and a half goes by. Now go home tonight and watch the clock for a minute and a half. This is awkward, and that's been 10 seconds. So before the class could erupt into laughter, she saves me. And she says, give Robert a hand. For what? I didn't say anything. But she saved me from humiliation and embarrassment. So I gather my stuff, after having said nothing, go back to my chair. Before I get there, they invite Johnny up already. I ain't even sat down yet. Who's up next? Johnny. Everybody loves Johnny. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Every class had one of those guys, right? Every class had, I'm coming, Chris. Every class had a Johnny. Every class had a Johnny, right? Every one of them. Handsome, good looking, big, strong. The opposite of me, basically. So before I sit down, he starts going, which is good for me because the whole class turns from watching me go back, which, by the way, is a longer walk back than it was coming up. And Johnny starts. So I sit there at my desk, humiliated. This small. Not only feeling embarrassed, but feeling in many, many ways inferior. Inferior to other human beings. And I sat at my desk, put my face in my hands, and I cried. Because I realized in that moment I had a stutter. And that's why I couldn't talk. I had a stutter. And so in that moment, I realized how different I was. That I stuttered, had a jerry curl from a beauty school, not even from a salon. Trying to save money, my mom. Right? And I was the only black kid in my class. And I hadn't thought about it until then. When you're 12, 13, you don't really think about it until it comes up to you. My dad was in the military, so I had moved all over the world. Was born in North Carolina, went to Italy, Germany, Hawaii, Washington State, New Jersey, Texas, and then here. So I had been everywhere already, but didn't realize that. So I was lost. I didn't know what to do. Like many kids now face the same exact predicament. If they had social media when I was around, it might have been really, really bad for me. Right, well, for the next 18, 24 months, my life was in a spiral. At 12 years old, not knowing who I was, not knowing if I was one of one, which I was, but didn't know it. Not knowing if I had any value whatsoever in the world. Your mom tells you, I love you, baby, you're beautiful, but you don't believe that. When your whole day is spent in a world that doesn't tell you that. So I was lost. And my dad got transferred. And I was so happy he got transferred. It never bothered me moving around. I don't need a mic, is it out? It never bothered me moving around. But for the first time, I actually was hopeful and enjoyed the fact that we were moving somewhere. Hoping that in that place it would be different. It wasn't. You can't get away from the mirror until you fix it. You can't get away from your soul until you feed it. So I had to find something to feed me. In a way, sports saved me. In a way, sports gave me something that allowed me to feed the part of me that was empty. So I dove into sports. Because in sports, it don't matter what color you are. It don't matter if you stutter. It don't matter if your mom sent you to a beauty school to get a jerry curl that was horrible. All that matters is can you dribble and can you shoot and play defense. All that matters is can you run and can you hit. Can you tackle and can you throw. That's it. So I lost myself in sports. Baseball, a little bit. Basketball, love basketball, my first love, really. But the sport that really got me, the sport that really captured every part of me was football. Because all those sports give you teamwork and camaraderie. All those sports give you a sense of mission and teamwork and selflessness. But football gives you something they don't. Something I needed more than anything, and that is the ability to take my pain and my hurt and apply it directly to somebody else. Legally. In the moment. So it fed me. I became something. I was something. And so for the next 13 years, I built an identity around football. Pop Warner, then high school, I went to Seaside, Fort Ord was my dad's last stomping grounds as a military vet. Went to UC Davis and played football there. And then one day, like most football players, that journey ended. And what I had built, this whole brand around strength and fight and persistence and hitting people legally, was gone. And I was back to that same position I was at 12 years old, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go, not knowing who I was without that. Having to re-confront a world that had to deal with me in a different way. And this time, I didn't have football to save me. I didn't have football to find me. But what I did have was all that I learned from playing football. The foundation that it laid for me, the lessons, the perseverance, the fight, the blood, the sweat, the scars, the wins, the losses, all of it. And I used that as my foundation to say, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to replace that. Using that. And so I started doing that. I started with the foundation built upon football and used those same tenets, those same pillars to continue my journey toward figuring out who I'm supposed to be. I call it the 4 F's. The first was football, right? Went back to school and got an MBA from Santa Clara in finance. That led to a 10-year career, believe it or not, as a chief financial officer for startups. Can you imagine me in an office? Neither could they. Right, so after all that was said and done, right to my wife's chagrin, I said, you know what? I love fitness. I love the fact that we all can be the best version of us. And I love the fact that whatever we do in our lives, mother, father, corporate leader, military person, coach, we see us first. And it's hard to be something from 9 to 5 if from 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning when you wake up and get ready, you don't like what you see. So I said, I want to help people like what they see and like who they are. So I began a fitness brand. Now I'm Coach Bobby. I coach people to be the best versions of themselves. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And I do it based on what I learned are my 5 steps to greatness. I'll go through it quickly because I can teach a whole day on it. Right, Chris? Right? Step 1, you have to want what you say you want. Right? You have to wake up every day and see, taste, smell it. Have a vision for what you want. I don't care what it is. Be a millionaire. Get a scholarship. Lose 20 pounds. Be a better husband, better father. If you don't wake up with that vision, it ain't going to happen. So you have to want it at a level that's different than everybody else. Number 2, believe it's possible. Right? 1 and 2 in my 5 steps to greatness are directly akin to the law of attraction, which I learned later. Step 1 and 2, want and believe. Step 3, have habits around work. I call it go. Stop saying what you're going to do. Stop saying I'm going to do it on Monday. Have habits around doing it, around going towards your vision. That's step 3. Step 4, as you go, don't be an idiot. In a nice way. Learn as you go. I want you to go, but learn as you go. Be a student of your vision. And then step 5, when stuff happens, and it will happen, have the ability to fight through it. Develop a callus to failure where nothing stops you. That's called persistence or persist. So want, believe, go, learn, persist. And so I used all those 5 steps to go through all this journey for almost 50 years. I'll be 50 in 2 weeks. 3 weeks, whatever it is. 25th, do the math. Told you I left computer science, right? Right? 5 steps to greatness. And so I went through all that: football, fitness, finance. And the 4th F, if you're counting, was the ability and the desire to be the best family person I could be. And that might be the hardest job. My son is here, my godson is here, my wife is here, my daughter's in school. But same principles for all of it. Same principles for all of it. And so I've given you my life story to date. And if I recall correctly, growing up in literature class or English, every story has 5 components. Right, Jalen? Who, what, when, where, and why. Right? So I've given you the what's. What I accomplished, what I did, all that BS. Right? I've given you an idea of the where and the when. Traveling the world, the ages I was when certain things happened. So I've given you the what's, the where's, and the when's of a good story. But everybody has that. Everybody has what's. I was a CEO of a company. I was a great salesperson here. I played basketball at whatever. We all have what's. I made X number of dollars. I have a nice 6-pack abs. All this crap. That's all what's. We all have what's. And those things happen somewhere and at some time, so we all have wins and where's. But what makes us great as a leader, as an individual, as a parent, as a coach, as a mentor, is the who and the why. Everybody has what's, where's, and when's. The ones who become great have a who and a why. Have a who and a why that separates us from them. Right? The what's people, the when's people, the where's people hang out and chill for 40 years of their life. They go so far in life, as Maya Angelou said, and they pull over and stop. And you ask them, who are you? And they'll tell you what? What they do, what they have, what they accomplish. No, who are you? Well, when I didn't say when, I didn't say where. Who are you? I almost said an F-bomb. Right? I wrote a poem 3 years ago. There's a video, short film about it. It's called Honor the Hours. I was on a flight to Arizona to give a talk to a baseball team, one of my first paid gigs. And I'm like, how the heck does a stuttering kid with a Jerry curl and buck teeth get paid to speak? Are you kidding me? I was on a flight, like literally giggling. How is that possible? How is a kid who was skinny and never the strongest, never the fastest, never the best player on his football team? Never. How does that kid play college football? How does a kid who my mom went to my school in slippers and a bathrobe. I'm lying, Mom. My mom passed away when I was 26. No slippers, no bathrobe. Went to the school and almost beat the counselor up because she told me I should consider a trade school. My mom was no joke, man. My dad almost got kicked out of the military, and Mr. Ruiz will tell you, for beating somebody up. Because when your spouse gets into a fight, they call the man in the military into the office and say, what is your wife doing? How does a kid who was a 3.2 GPA in high school, maybe, how does that kid go to UC Davis and then become a CFO? Here's how. And the poem says this: everybody wants honors. Everybody wants to be lean and ripped like me. Everybody wants to be a Hall of Fame inductee like Mr. Garcia. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants the big house, the big boat. Those are honors. And some of us, a subset of everyone, get that it takes work to get there. It takes hours to become great. All these kids have fancy hashtags. Hashtag on the grind. Hashtag back in my bag. So they say in my bag. I say it right? In my bag. All these. So we partly get that it takes some work. We all want honors, and most of us understand it takes hours. But what they don't get, and what I understood on that flight, was it ain't about the honors or the hours. It's what do you do with the hours that you get. It's about honoring the hours on the way to the honors. Y'all get that? It was a triple layer. Honor the hours on your way to the honors. What that means is be where you at. That red door means that, right? When you walk in here, be where you at. You will never see me at my daughter's game or my son's game on my phone. I'm honoring the hours. That's why I coach him. I can yell at him on the field and it won't affect our relationship. Because since age 5, I've been there for him. I was in the library studying for 3 hours. Were you? You were in there for 3 hours, but were you studying for 3 hours? So I got to where I'm at, not because I'm special. I ain't special. I got to where I'm at in everything I do, because when I'm there, I'm going to be there. If it's an hour workout, I'm working out for an hour, not 27 minutes. So that's the key. Who are you? And so that's what it is, right? The honors is the whats, right? The hours that it takes to get there, that's the wins and the wheres. But the who you are is the honoring. Who you are in the moment is the honoring of the moment. And whatever you do in your life, I don't care what it is, football, cooking, a marriage, parenting, if you honor the work the way it's supposed to be honored, you can't lose. So I've given you the whats, the wins, the wheres, and the who of a good story. And therein kind of lies the greatness. I told you, it's the who and the why. Now, the why is critical. The why is the last piece, the last ingredient, because it's going to get hard in your life. Right? That thing you want for a reason. You want because it's hard to get. Building a company is hard to do. That's why you want to do it. Right? Having a 30-year, 40-year marriage is hard to do. That's why you want to do it. Having a daughter and a son who are teenagers who still talk to you is hard to do. That's why it feels so good when it happens. So the why is going to get you there. Why are you doing it? Why are we here? Well, we're all here for greatness. We are here to learn and to grow. We are all here to answer that calling that we all hear. We all hear it. They hear it too. You're better than this. Like kids I coach, people I train, they know it's a short phrase. You better than this. It cuts deeper than any F-bomb. Trust me. Walk into your kid's room and it's dirty. Son, you better than this, man. And walk out. I promise you that has more impact than saying, clean your effing room up. You better than this. So all of us are here because we hear that voice that tells us, you better than this. And so now we have to answer it. We have to become the best version of us. And to do that, I learned, requires that we be our whole self. That's hard. Because all of us have two sides. All of us have two sides. Right? One is built on strength. The human race was built on strength and perseverance and fight. But all of us have another side of compassion and love and relationships. Most of us rely on one or the other. Those who are quiet and soft are reluctant to lead. Those who think they're all that and always want to lead are reluctant to sit down and chat with somebody. Put the arm around them. But you can't be great unless you have both. And I have lived for 3 decades relying almost exclusively on this. And as I reach into my late 40s and 50s and want to give back and help others, I realize that ain't enough. Right, Roy Ball? That ain't enough. You can't just be half of it. And so I knew I had to be all I was, all I am, to be the leader I know I can be. But I couldn't do it. Because although half of me was doing great in all this crap, half of me was still sitting back in that chair crying. The part of me that was sensitive and cared and was passionate, I left him behind years ago to save myself from myself. But I couldn't be here today doing this if 2 years ago I didn't go back and get him. He was still in the chair crying and nobody had saved him. So I went back and got the 12-year-old version of me that nobody got. I couldn't do this 3-4 years ago. Ask anybody who knows, I could not do this until that. And so now I'm whole, not perfect. Far from it, but whole, with a chance to figure out why I was put here. And we're all here to do that, to figure out why we're put here. One of one. There are things that only I can do for the world, that you can't do, that you can't do, that you can't do. There are things only Jalen can do for the world that I can't do. So the mission is simple. We are supposed to do, or we're born to do, we're here to do, the intersection of what you can do and what you're supposed to do. We can do a lot of things. Right? I can do football, I can do finance, I can do fitness, but until you find out what you're supposed to do, that call that you hear will always be there. It will always be there. You're better than this. All you gotta do is walk to it. That's it. Now, those who don't know, I'm a football coach as well. And I coached a local football team, Christopher High School. And I've had a tough 2 weeks, actually 7 days. So last Saturday, we played our arch rival, Gilroy, which was the original high school in town. Go ahead and clap if you're from Gilroy. No. we won. And then last night, we played a 5-0 team versus 5-0 team. I'm almost done. 5-0 versus 5-0. Last night. Thursday night. So Saturday game, Thursday game, Friday talk. That's a long 7 days. That's a long 7 days. Right? And we lost. My speech was about, we messed it up. My talk was going to end with some cool talk about being 6-0. I can't do that now. We lost. But you learn more through adversity. And so I always teach my team and my family and those I lead in any organization, I teach them that the game of life, like the game of football, is not the entirety that you think it is. Right? The game is not 2 hours long. The game is 2 hours long, but the game comes down to about 2 minutes of moments that make the difference. Your 16, 17, 18-year-old kid is 18 years old, but your relationship has come down to about 25 minutes of moments. And how you handle those moments determines success or failure. Right? I call it conquer the mountain or die on it. So when you face something that's challenging and hard and you want to quit, my mantra is, I ain't going back. It's hard. I knew it would be hard. I didn't know it would be this hard, coach, but we knew it would be hard. You knew raising a family would be hard. You knew building a business would be hard. You knew losing weight would be hard. And so when it comes up, conquer the mountain or die on it. That means I'm not going back. I'm committed to winning. So my mission for you, my challenge for all of you, is to do what I tell my teams on game days. Once this door shuts, we're not retreating and we ain't surrendering. To the football team, to that weight loss you want to make, to that business you want to build, we're not surrendering. And it's very, very simple. We will fight this battle until the battle is won. I will do this task in front of me until the work is done. Because like me and my wife and my son and the Rios family and Big Chris and my boy Mike and Jeff, all my speakers, we are all literally one of one. That's my time. Thank you.